So this will be a really quick tech training webinar just to go over what professional skills days are and how to have the best ones. So if you are a brand new program manager, professional skills days are built into our curriculum to focus on learning a new professional skill versus a technical skill in our fellowship class. These are put 3 times into our curriculum throughout the year and highlight different skills that we think students will need after they exit our class in college and as they go into a tech job. The way these days are usually laid out are an intro, an icebreaker, and then a couple rotations so that students get some small group time and they'll work on multiple things each day. So this year, our professional skills day are actually going to cover different things each time. Our first one after Unit 2, we'll go over whiteboarding and networking. Our second one after Unit 4, we'll go over portfolio updating, resumes, and presentations. And our third one after Unit 6, we'll go over LinkedIn and whiteboarding again. I really recommend you look through the slides, especially if you're a brand new program manager right now as you're going through this webinar. But I just want to give you some tips and tricks for before, during, and after these professional skills days, because they're definitely going to look different from your normal class days. And you're really going to have to make sure that you prepare appropriately. Otherwise, you're going to feel really overwhelmed and not be able to manage the day as easily as you would like to. So the first thing professional skills day is that you should definitely update your planning schedule and make sure that you have these listed in your planning schedule on certain days, and you are going to lead these days. So your name should be under lead teacher, not one of your volunteers. So update your planning schedule appropriately for that. The reason why you're going to be leading it is because, like I said, you're going to be doing most of the organizing for how these rotations are going to work. No technical skills are going to be taught during this day. So you will be able to lead this day super confidently. Really make sure you read the teacher prep slides before you delete them. There should be tons of links to additional resources. There might be some things that need to be printed for these days, depending on which one it is. And your volunteers are not completely off the hook, even though they're not lead teaching. Because there's going to be rotations, they will each lead a small group through that rotation. So definitely make sure that you prepare and send them the slides early so that they have enough time to look through it, because it won't be enough for them just to show up as a support volunteer. You should also think about this a few weeks in advance, because this is a great day to invite other employees from the company. I often did this, especially if one of my volunteers was going to be absent, because I wanted to make sure there were enough helpers in the room. But if there's any employees who might be interested in volunteering with Code Nation next year, some fancy people like CEOs or CTOs who might want to observe. If you have a large class, you really might need extra people. And I've actually invited other volunteers who have been part of my other programs, if their office was near my fellowship class, just to have another adult who could help out. It's also helpful if you can reserve multiple rooms. This is not mandatory. In some places, it's impossible. In some places, you might just want to all be together. But I really liked being able to spread out so that my rotations were like very different from each other, and so that all of my volunteers had their own space. So if that's possible, if you feel like that's a good thing, you might want to check that out pretty far in advance as well. You're going to need to pre-create student groups for volunteers. I know it's difficult in terms of attendance, but trying to figure out who should go with who. Ideally, you can just use your project management groups, unless you think that'll be weird with attendance. I, especially with whiteboarding, tried to put students together strategically based on their technical ability. So that could mean putting 2 students who are around the same level together. It could also mean putting 2 students together, one who is really advanced and one who needs a little bit more support, so they can help each other out. If your whiteboarding groups need to be bigger than 2, that's also fine. You will probably want to preview the professional skills check-in document with students, which is attached to the slides, and it actually just goes over the professional skills that you're going to rank, and I'll show you that later, along with the student growth tracker, which you'll want to show your volunteers, because the volunteers are going to be the ones who are going to help you rate students. and they need to know what to look for. And then finally, I liked to create a really clear agenda that I shared with volunteers and sometimes with students, with like exact times that we were going to go on to the next activity, because these days are super packed and it's really easy to get off track. So I made sure to schedule in our break time, our snack time, and then how long every rotation should go, and it's just to make sure that we ended on time. During these classes, there is an icebreaker in all of these, and I do recommend actually doing the icebreaker. I know that when we are strapped for time, it's like the easiest thing to cut, but it's a great way for students to sort of break out of the routine of the other class days, and kind of go build these deeper relationships with volunteers. If you want to try and put in a shorter one versus the one that we recommend, that's totally fine. But I think making these fun days and days that students want to attend is important, because some of our students are so excited about the technical skills that these days are ones that they don't find as engaging. And it's great to have as many students as possible on these days, because these skills are just as important as the technical skills. And then in all of the professional skills day, there will be one thing that you're actually teaching. So you're going to actually teach the rotation with a longer direct teach. If you're not sure which one that is, that's like the resume writing one, or the LinkedIn one, or the networking one. This is different for program managers who are returning. Last year, it was much easier to just kind of bounce around and see different rotations, leave your volunteers in charge. But in this one, we are actually teaching a skill, and you will be the one to do the actual teaching, while the volunteers take the students on the rotation that needs less teaching support, like whiteboarding and presentations. So the rotations will be about 45 minutes each, because that goes to 90 minutes, which is the majority of the class, right? So they'll spend 45 minutes with you learning something, for example, networking, and then 45 minutes with the volunteers working on a skill like whiteboarding. All right, and then after your professional skills day, you want to make sure that you fill in the student growth tracker. You're going to do this 3 times, and after the professional skills day is the perfect time to do this. Volunteers are going to fill in the technical skills for their project management group. You're going to fill in the professional skills for all the students, but feel free to ask your volunteers for feedback. And then once all of this is filled in, you're going to hold one-on-one meetings with your students in the next few weeks to go over all of their goals. And my suggestion is to take notes on student goals in the student growth tracker. So just so you can see, this is one of my student growth trackers from last year. They look about the same. This is the main page where everything is sort of calculated out. Reminder that we're inputting homework every week. Here is the technical skills. Whoops, this is filtered. There we go. So for your volunteers, here we go. For your volunteers, if you actually just hover over the explanation, it'll tell you what you want to score them. So we're rating them on 1 through 4 on different things. Tell your volunteers not to be too harsh, but also not too lenient on these. You might want to norm with your group. And have them do the students that they've been working with because they know them the best. They can also ask you or other volunteers for support if they're not sure what they want to rate somebody. Ditto for the professional skills. So you'll see again, if you hover over it, it will show you what you want how you want to rate them. These are the things that are on the student check-in document as well. So students know exactly what you're rating them on. Professionalism, work quality, organization and time management, communication skills, independent problem solving, collaboration and teamwork, and presentation skills. Make sure that students are aware of this. You can also see that I added a student goals tab in my student growth tracker because my volunteers wanted to know what goals students had created with me. I asked them during quarter 1 to create 2 different goals. So these were some of the goals that my students gave. I would also either email these goals to students or send them a Slack so that they're aware of them as well. And once they're in here, you can check in with students to see how they've been doing. You can see that some students did not get a chance to do one-on-ones because of attendance, but ideally that does not happen. Yeah, in the tech training agenda, I put all of these resources. If we want to take a look at this student check-in really quickly. I forgot to open it. Here we go. It looks just like this. You can show this to students. You can have them rate themselves first, and then if they are very off, for example, they rated themselves like a 1 on something and you would have rated them a 3 or a 4, or vice versa, you will definitely want to talk about that in your one-on-one, but you can see just sort of their self-awareness as well. Other documents to look in, if you're inviting people, there's an email invite. There's an info sheet that you can share with volunteers that just like kind of explains what each of the rotations is. And then this tips and tricks document has a lot of the same information that I just went over in the webinar, along with the curriculum slides for day 1, 2, and 3, so you don't have to search for them in GitHub. You can just take a look at them now if you would like. And that's about it for skills days. Let me know if you have any questions, and yeah, thanks.